Good morning. I want to talk to you today about something we all face at some point: ugly situations. Times when life doesn't go the way we planned, when we feel disappointed, betrayed, or stuck in circumstances that seem unfair. Maybe you lost a job, a friend let you down, or you're facing a health crisis. It's in these moments that we have a choice: to let the situation define us or to rise above it. You see, life will always present difficulties, but the way we respond determines what happens next. Some people let a bad situation make them bitter, while others use it as a stepping stone to something greater. The good news is that God never wastes pain. If He allowed it, He will use it. What looks like a setback is often a setup for a greater comeback. Think about Joseph in the Bible. He was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. But through it all, he never lost faith. He kept his integrity, stayed positive, and trusted that God had a plan. And in the end, he was promoted to a position greater than he could have imagined. The same can happen for you. That ugly situation you're facing is not the end. It's just part of the process. Now, I know it's not always easy. When you're in the middle of a storm, it's tempting to complain, to get discouraged, or to give up. But your attitude in the storm determines whether you sink or rise. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" start declaring, "This is happening for me. God is using this for my good." You might not see it right now, but everything you're going through is preparing you for something better. That difficult boss, he's teaching you patience. That financial struggle, it's showing you how to trust in God's provision. That betrayal is positioning you for new relationships that will bring greater blessings. So, my encouragement to you today is this: don't let a temporary problem steal your permanent joy. Stay in faith. Keep the right perspective. When life gets ugly, don't run from it. Rise above it. Because if you keep pressing forward, if you keep trusting God, He will turn your test into a testimony, your mess into a message, and your pain into purpose. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and no one is exempt from facing difficult or even ugly situations. You may encounter betrayal from someone you trusted, financial struggles that seem overwhelming, or challenges in your health that test your strength. These moments can shake you, leaving you feeling discouraged, frustrated, or even hopeless. However, what truly matters is not the situation itself, but how you choose to respond. The attitude you take and the mindset you develop in these times will determine whether you rise above the challenge or allow it to defeat you. Too often, when people face difficulties, they react with frustration, self-pity, or bitterness. While those feelings are natural, staying in that negative mindset only prolongs the pain. It keeps you stuck in the problem rather than moving toward the solution. What you need to realize is that you have the power to shift your perspective. Instead of letting the problem define you, you can choose to see it as a learning experience, a test of faith, or even a stepping stone to something greater. Consider two people facing the same setback. Let's say they both lose their jobs unexpectedly. One person becomes bitter, constantly complaining, feeling like a victim and carrying resentment toward their employer. The other person, while disappointed, takes a different approach. They see the job loss as an opportunity to grow, to learn a new skill, or to find a career that aligns more with their true passion. They believe that even though this door has closed, a better one will open. Over time, the second person finds greater success and fulfillment, while the first remains stuck in their frustration. The difference wasn't in the circumstance, it was in the response. One of the greatest examples of responding well to adversity comes from people who have turned their setbacks into successes. Many of the most successful individuals in history faced tremendous difficulties before achieving greatness. They refused to let their circumstances define them. choosing instead to rise above them. When life presents an ugly situation, you can either let it break you or use it to build a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. Your response to life's challenges should be rooted in faith, resilience, and a belief that better days are ahead. It's not always easy, but every hardship carries the potential for growth. When you train yourself to see beyond the problem and trust that there is a bigger plan at work, you position yourself for a breakthrough. No matter how bad things seem, they will pass. The storm will end and the sun will shine again. But it's up to you to decide whether you will emerge stronger or remain stuck. Life will bring difficulties, but they do not have to define you. Instead of letting circumstances dictate your future, take control of your response. Face each challenge with faith, knowing that your reaction today shapes your success tomorrow. Sometimes in life we face situations that seem like complete failures. Doors close, relationships fall apart, opportunities slip through our fingers, and we feel like we've hit rock bottom. It's in these moments that we often ask, why is this happening to me? Or how can anything good come from this? But what we don't always see right away is that every setback has the potential to be a setup for something greater. God has a way of using even the most painful and discouraging moments to lead us into something better than we ever imagined. Think about some of the greatest success stories, whether in business, sports, or faith. So many of them began with failure or disappointment. People who are thriving today didn't get there without hardship. The difference is that instead of giving up when things got tough, they trusted that something greater was coming. What looks like a dead end is often just a detour towards something better. A great example of this is the story of Joseph in the Bible. He was favored by his father, had big dreams, and a bright future ahead of him. But suddenly, everything turned upside down. His own brothers betrayed him, threw him into a pit, and sold him into slavery. Just when things seemed like they couldn't get worse, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison. If anyone had a reason to give up, to get bitter, or to feel abandoned, it was Joseph. But despite everything, he remained faithful, kept a good attitude, and continued to trust that God had a bigger plan. Years later, Joseph's faithfulness paid off. He was not only freed from prison, but he was elevated to the highest position in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. The very people who betrayed him had to come to him for help during a famine. What seemed like a series of unfortunate events was actually God preparing him for something greater. If Joseph had given up in the prison, he would have never reached the palace. This is true for all of us. Sometimes what seems like a painful setback is actually preparing us for a comeback. That closed door may be protecting you from something that wasn't meant for you. That person walking away may be making space for someone who will be a greater blessing in your life. That difficulty in your job or finances may be pushing you towards something even better. The key is to trust that even when things don't go as planned, God is still in control. What was meant to harm you can be turned around for your good. The heartbreak, the rejection, the loss, it's not the end of your story. If you stay faithful, if you keep believing, you'll look back one day and realize that what you thought was a setback was actually the stepping stone to something incredible. Your greatest challenges can become your greatest testimonies. Keep trusting, keep moving forward, and watch how God turns your trials into triumphs. Difficult situations are a part of life, and no one is exempt from challenges. There will be times when things don't go as planned, unexpected disappointments, obstacles that seem too big, or seasons of uncertainty that make you question your direction. In these moments, it's easy to become discouraged, to complain, or to let frustration take over. But how you respond during tough times determines whether you rise above the situation or let it pull you down. Maintaining a positive attitude, even in the midst of trouble, is one of the most powerful things you can do. It's natural to feel overwhelmed when facing difficulties. Some people allow their circumstances to control their emotions. They wake up frustrated, carry a negative outlook, and spread their discouragement to others. But staying in a negative mindset only makes the situation worse. Complaining doesn't solve problems, and dwelling on what went wrong doesn't bring solutions. What truly makes a difference is shifting your perspective and choosing to focus on what's still possible instead of what's going wrong. A positive attitude is not about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about believing that even in the midst of challenges, things can turn around. It's about choosing faith over fear, hope over despair, and peace over stress. When you decide to stay positive, you begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You start finding solutions instead of focusing on problems. Your attitude shapes your experience, and when you shift your mindset, your circumstances often follow. There's a story of two people who were given the same difficult job in a factory. Long hours, repetitive work, and little pay. One person constantly complained, hated every moment, and became more miserable each day. The other person decided to focus on the positives. He was grateful to have a job, saw it as a learning experience, and used his time there to develop new skills. Eventually, the second person was promoted to a higher position while the first remained stuck in frustration. Their circumstances were the same, but their attitudes created completely different outcomes. Even in the Bible, we see examples of people who chose faith over fear. Paul and Silas were thrown into prison unjustly, yet instead of complaining, they started singing and praising God. In the middle of their worship, the prison doors opened and they were set free. Their attitude in the storm changed the outcome of their situation. The same applies to life today. No matter what you are facing, you have a choice in how you respond. You can let the problem steal your peace, or you can trust that better days are ahead. You can focus on what's going wrong, or you can believe that things will turn around. Staying positive doesn't mean life will always be easy, but it does mean that you won't be defeated by temporary struggles. When you choose to stay hopeful, keep a good attitude, and trust the process, you position yourself for victory, no matter what comes your way. Difficulties and challenges are part of life, and at times they can feel overwhelming. It's easy to question why certain struggles come our way and why things don't always go as planned. When faced with an ugly situation, the natural response is often to complain, to feel frustrated, or to dwell on how unfair things seem. But the truth is, every challenge carries a lesson, and those who embrace the learning process come out stronger, wiser, and better prepared for what's ahead. Life is a journey of growth, and growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in moments of struggle, in times of uncertainty, and in situations that force us to stretch beyond what we thought we were capable of. Every difficulty presents an opportunity to develop patience, resilience, and wisdom. The key is to approach hardships with an open heart and a teachable spirit rather than resisting them with frustration and negativity. Think about the process of refining gold. Before it becomes something valuable, it must go through intense heat to remove impurities. In the same way, challenges refine us, shaping our character and preparing us for greater things. If we refuse to learn from difficulties and instead choose to complain, we miss out on the transformation that could be taking place in our lives. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? A better question is, what can I learn from this? There are countless stories of successful people who faced failures and setbacks, but used those experiences as stepping stones to something greater. Many of the world's greatest inventors, leaders, and entrepreneurs struggled with rejection, loss, and failure before they reached their breakthrough. The difference was in how they responded. Rather than complaining, they learned from their experiences, adjusted their approach, and kept moving forward. One of the most powerful examples of learning from adversity is seen in the story of Job in the Bible. Job lost everything: his wealth, his family, his health. He had every reason to complain and give up. But instead, he remained faithful and continued to trust God. Through his trials, Job gained wisdom, patience, and a deeper understanding of God's faithfulness. In the end, he was restored and blessed far beyond what he had lost. His suffering wasn't meaningless. It became a testimony of resilience and faith in our own lives. The situations we face may not always make sense in the moment, but they are not without purpose. Each difficulty teaches something valuable. Whether it's patience in a frustrating season, gratitude in a time of lack, or strength in the face of adversity. Complaining only prolongs the struggle, but learning from it accelerates growth. When faced with hardships, the choice is yours. Will you let the situation break you, or will you use it as a lesson that propels you forward? Every challenge carries wisdom, and those who seek to learn from their struggles will always emerge stronger and better prepared for the future. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and sometimes things don't go as planned. You may face setbacks, disappointments, or challenges that shake your confidence and make you question your path. In those moments, it's easy to feel discouraged and wonder why things aren't working out the way you hoped. But what we often don't realize is that even when things seem to be falling apart, they are actually falling into place. There is a bigger picture that we can't always see, and every experience, good or bad, is part of a greater plan. When difficulties arise, the natural reaction is to think that everything is going wrong. You might feel like you've lost time, missed opportunities, or made mistakes that can't be undone. But nothing is wasted in God's plan. Every experience, even the painful ones, is shaping you for something greater. The challenges you face today are preparing you for the victories of tomorrow. What may seem like a setback is often a setup for a breakthrough. A great example of this can be seen in the life of Moses. As a young man, he felt called to help his people. But when he tried to take matters into his own hands, he ended up fleeing into the wilderness for 40 years. To many, it might have looked like he had failed. But during that time, God was preparing him, teaching him patience, humility, and leadership. When the time was right, Moses returned and led an entire nation to freedom. What seemed like wasted years in the wilderness was actually a season of preparation for his greatest purpose. The same principle applies to our lives. We may not always understand why things happen the way they do, but if we trust that there is a purpose behind every challenge, we can navigate difficulties with faith instead of frustration. Maybe that job you didn't get was protecting you from a situation that wouldn't have been right for you. Maybe that relationship that ended was making space for someone who will truly support and uplift you. Maybe that closed door is simply redirecting you to something far greater than what you originally planned. Everything in life works together for a reason. Even the struggles, even the heartbreaks, even the delays. Nothing is random. Just because you don't see how everything fits together right now doesn't mean that it won't all make sense later. The key is to stay patient and trust the process. Instead of getting discouraged when things don't go your way, remind yourself that something better is coming. Difficult seasons are not the end of your story. They are just chapters that are leading you towards something greater. Your challenges are not in vain. They are strengthening you, teaching you, and positioning you for the blessings ahead. Keep believing, keep moving forward, and trust that everything you are going through will work together for your good. One day you will look back and realize that every struggle had a purpose, and every delay was leading you exactly where you needed to be. Life is filled with ups and downs, victories and setbacks, joys and disappointments. It's easy to feel happy and grateful when everything is going well, but the true test of character comes when things don't go as planned. When faced with hardships, many people allow temporary problems to steal their permanent joy. They let one bad day turn into a bad week, one setback define their entire future, or one failure make them feel like giving up. But the truth is, challenges are temporary, and they should never have the power to take away the lasting joy and peace that come from within. Difficult situations may shake you, but they don't have to break you. It's important to remember that every problem has an expiration date. No storm lasts forever, and no hardship is permanent. When you go through a tough time, it's easy to feel like things will never get better. But if you look back on your life, you'll realize that you have already overcome so many difficulties. The things that once seemed impossible are now just memories. The heartbreak that once felt unbearable has passed. The stress that kept you up at night eventually faded. This should remind you that whatever you are facing today will also pass. People often make the mistake of tying their joy to external circumstances. They think, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, or I'll feel at peace when all my problems are solved. But true joy doesn't come from everything being perfect, it comes from within. If your happiness depends on everything going your way, you'll always be frustrated because life is unpredictable. There will always be challenges, setbacks, and unexpected obstacles. But when you learn to maintain your joy despite your circumstances, you become unshakable. You refuse to let momentary trouble steal your long-term peace. The Bible talks about how we should have peace that surpasses all understanding, peace that doesn't make sense, even in difficult situations. Paul, one of the greatest leaders of faith, wrote some of his most powerful messages while he was in prison. He was in chains, facing uncertainty, yet he still encouraged others to remain joyful. He understood that joy isn't about what's happening around you. It's about the perspective you choose. When challenges come, remind yourself that this is not the end of your story. The financial struggle, the health issue, the disappointment, it's all temporary. You have the strength to rise above it. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, focus on what's still right. Instead of letting problems consume you, remind yourself of the blessings you still have. No matter what you face, don't let temporary hardships steal the joy that belongs to you. Hold on to your faith, keep the right perspective, and remember that better days are ahead. Your circumstances will change, but your inner peace and joy should remain strong. Choose to live with gratitude, hope, and confidence, knowing that this challenge is only a chapter, not the whole book of your life. Life will always present challenges, difficulties, and unexpected situations that test our faith, patience, and strength. But the way we respond to these trials determines whether we rise above them or allow them to defeat us. When faced with ugly situations, we must remember that our response matters more than the situation itself. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, we can choose to learn, grow, and trust that something better is on the way. Every setback is an opportunity for a comeback. Every disappointment can be a lesson that strengthens us. The storms of life are not meant to break us, but to shape us into stronger, wiser, more resilient individuals. Complaining about difficulties only prolongs the struggle, but facing them with faith, gratitude, and perseverance leads to victory. We must hold on to the truth that nothing in life is wasted. Even our hardest moments serve a greater purpose. What seems like a loss today may be a setup for something greater tomorrow. When we trust that everything is working for our good, we can move forward with confidence, knowing that better days are ahead. No matter what you're facing, don't let temporary hardships steal your joy. Keep the right attitude, learn from every experience, and trust that God is guiding you towards something greater. Your struggles are not the end of your story. They are just a part of the journey leading you to victory. Stay strong, keep believing, and watch how even the ugliest situations can be transformed into something beautiful.